Okay, perhaps you feel inspired, perhaps you feel, well, whatever you feel. Hopefully, you have questions to raise here. So there are colleagues with microphones as the discussion is being recorded. You may wish to go with the inspiration, you may wish to challenge some of the assumptions or whatever. But if our speakers permit me, I'm going to take questions in groups, and then you don't necessarily feel obliged to answer each question. Can we take the gentleman here, please?
Hello,
thank you. Just say who you are.
My name is Alexandros Zachariadis. I am a PhD student in the International Relations Department. First, I'd like to ask Mr. Kyrannakis about a statistic that he mentioned. He said that based on the World Bank's research, Greece has an 11 mark on the doing business parameter, but there's a 79 rank in the world business, which is quite low. So it's quite back in terms of other European economies. Second, I'd like to ask, how does he think, as a member of government, would the diaspora and the brain gain generation would feel when they see that the government is backtracking in important money laundering and fraud corruption legislation, according to a Financial Times article later that week. And finally, most of the taxation measures that have been introduced in the legislation that you have called on development are focusing on the tourist sector and on the real estate sector, and have also tackled collective. How does the New Democracy government will create better working conditions for individuals to come back to Greece? Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. I take it you weren't necessarily so inspired. Could we just pass the microphone back to our friend here? Can you just repeat your challenge in terms of the rankings with the World Bank?
So,
just slowly.
Yes, so the World Bank doing business...
Ease of doing business.
Ease of doing business is at number 11, but the overall rank of Greece across the sectors that the World Bank's report has released is at 79, I think.
Okay.
And it includes 11 variables.
Indeed.
And one of them is ease of doing business.
Okay. Other questions, please. Can we take the lady behind you here, please?
Good evening. Congratulations to all of you for your presentations. My name is Dr. Kyrannakis. I'm doctor, I'm GP, you know me very well. I'm the new president of the Hellenic Medical Society of the UK, and I'm also the general secretary of a special party organization, ECHO, New Democracy UK. We are scientists, the ECHO of Scientists UK. So we are on the same side, I would say, Mr. Kyrannakis. We came across a few years ago when I had the speech about brain drain with Popical IG. So I have been working on that quite a few years, and I would like to say it's very interesting what we discussed, but practically we don't have solutions yet. Speaking in numbers, 12,700 doctors left Greece because they can't live with a decent salary in the country, and these are facts. And 3,200 are in UK. And I'm asking, which I asked our Prime Minister, and Professor Featherstone was there when I asked him, we don't have meritocracy. We are not appraised. We are not having revalidation. We are still behind, and our culture is not to accept controls, not to accept appraisals, not to accept someone who has worked really hard abroad. We go back and they speak to us, well, who do you think that you are? Because you work there, you know everything, and we know that will be very, very difficult and challenging to change, and these are facts. So I'm just wondering, though I would really like to be one of the doctors who will go back, how is doctors going to live with 1,500 euros a month? How are we going to create conditions for those doctors to return? Half of them, 1/3 of them. How are we going to create better environment of work? How are we going to make things work? Thank you.
That's good. We get that. applause for a question. Here, please.
Thank you. My name is Nicholas Vagionis. I'm an economist, and I had my PhD from this school about 35 years ago. So anyway, this experience has taught me that preventing is always easier than healing. So in these lines, I would like first to see the concrete measures that would lead to stop or curb brain drain before we start talking about brain gain. Because if we see continuing trends of people not having enough business work opportunities in our country, if we see that we still keep losing the best qualified scientists and so on, how can we just aspire to regain people that are already here established? They have contracts, they have scholarships, they have business, they have offices, they have career opportunities, they have health system, they have insurance schemes, they have mortgages and everything, and get them back since we lose people that have nothing, and we lose them. We cannot offer a decent employment life in people that don't have anything. How can we attract the people that already have something? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Perhaps then if we invite our speakers to respond, perhaps if we go in the order that you spoke. Angeliki, would you like to pick up on any particular points?
Sure. Starting with the last one, with your last question, I think that you made a great point there about reversing brain drain of the spot before starting to attract people back. To me, a question like that always has the who parameter in it. Someone has to do it, and not one of them has to do it. So again, it's a matter of synergies for me. What we have tried to do at the People's Transfer instance is create more jobs, because we talk, youth unemployment in Greece is at the highest percentage in the European Union. It's close to 48%. It's huge, and it's a very pessimistic percentage. So when we don't have jobs, we have to create jobs. So we have to go about the problem and see if there's any way we can tackle it. And I don't think that this is only a matter of the government. This is a matter of the general climate, and all of us have something to do there. So I don't think that this is a phenomenon that can be reversed horizontally, but many of us have to do certain things in order to do it. And I think that the first thing would be to really work collectively. We've heard so many interesting things now, and we are just three people representing different causes. And there are many other causes out there, and we have to find a way to really work together and invest in finding solutions and working with the government and not against the government to do so. I don't think that that such a multi-level problem can be solved by one entity alone. I don't know if Mr. Kyrannakis is of a different opinion.
Okay, Angela?
I would like to agree on Angeliki's point. Collaboration is key for anything to happen, and even for us as an organization, being abroad, we are quite an alien, actually, institution. The fact that we are helping Greece from abroad, we needed to collaborate with institutions, and now we're also talking with the Greek government to see how we can collaborate more strongly. But as institutions, it's, as you mentioned as well in your talk, it's the first time we're sitting together. Maybe this type of round table should happen more often, so that we can indeed help to reverse the problem that is happening. And basically not try to dilute by bringing the talents and dilute the problem that exists, but try to collaborate and create the right infrastructure for the doctors to come back and have the right salaries or the right system to be monitored and to feel safe, to share how they feel. And as well for, as you mentioned, the conditions should be better. Yes, we all agree, but it's not one power, it's a collective power.
Okay. But I took the questions to be asking for a concrete measure, some concrete action. We could have the discussion again, you could collaborate amongst each other, but if you were asked for one specific action, perhaps both for Angeliki and Angela, if you asked for one specific change you would like the government to do, just in one sentence, what would that be?
Changes in taxation would be key for me.
Angela?
I would like to say taxation is key to invite investment, but as well culture. For me, it's culture.
Okay.
Everything starts from that.
And how do we change culture?
It starts from early years. It's from school. You don't leave it at university level to create entrepreneurship or to create this mindset of openness.
Okay.
So culture starts from home and school.
Okay, thanks. Constantino, there was a question about
There's a couple of questions
and meritocracy.
Yes, I'll start from the last point on culture. I think the specific way to change, in my view, the culture in Greece is by some of you coming back and taking key positions, as I said before in my initial presentation. Education is important, and getting entrepreneurship in school programs and all of that, it's already happening, it's important. It creates a shift in early age mentality. But if we don't change the role models of the Greek economy and the Greek society, culture will not change.
Okay.
So people with a different personal culture for themselves, they need to come back in Greece and take an important role in whatever business or other sector they will be active in.
But in the recent past, they've decided to leave Greece for some specific reasons, one of which was highlighted in terms of the survey, lack of meritocracy.
Yes.
So what change in Greece would you say was crucial to get them back? They've decided to leave. Why should they come back if you're not changing?
Yes, so that comes to the question of our friend Kyrgyaki, sitting in the back. And I would like to ask her a question. Would you come back and become a director of a public hospital in Greece?
Well, let's not have a dialogue here because there's lots of people...
No, but this is the point. It's real.
I suspect Kyrgyaki is not 82 years old, so may not qualify precisely.
But I would like to hear an answer.
No.
No?
No. If
No
you
answer.
make your presentation, we can't have a dialogue between two people. We need to have a...
Okay, so I'll just have to guess your answer.
Okay.
And because I asked many people if they would come back to Greece for a role in the public
It
sector.
would be great if you could give your answer.
And the answer is no.
What? That you wouldn't come back to Greece?
To become director of a public hospital and make yourself...
Okay, sorry. Sorry.
My point is...
Sorry, there was no point in having a bilateral discussion on whether one individual would return to Greece. I think the audience is waiting for some concrete ideas of how you would propose Greece would change in order to attract people back. Am I right?
So my point is that we have to change the circumstances and the criteria and the wage and the responsibilities that someone in a position like that, for example, the director of a public hospital, has. The wage right now is very low. It needs to become higher. If it becomes higher, some people in Greece or outside Greece will say, this is scandalous. Why are you giving more money to public servants? Responsibilities are very high. This means that if you sign for certain actions of the hospital, or you're obliged to sign, otherwise the hospital doesn't function, then you might end up in court because someone will sue you with a legal or without a legal basis. And this is a disincentive for someone like Kyrgyaki coming back and getting a key position in the public sector, whether it is a public hospital or something else. So a concrete measure would be that, first of all, the wages need to be much higher for positions with responsibilities like this. And secondly, a legal framework that is protective for people who will come back and they will put their energy and their talent into a position like this because they love Greece, because they want to change Greece for all these reasons. So, so this is my answer to Angeliki. And of course, I think that what happened this week with one specific position, one specific pick for a public hospital is a mistake. This is why the government in less than 24 hours corrected that mistake, but this doesn't change the fact that 80% of the other directors of public hospitals have, for the first time, PhDs, they have master's degrees, they were selected with certain criteria that symbolize meritocracy to a very large extent. Now on the question...
Money laundering.
Money laundering. Well, first of all, I understand you didn't challenge my point, the figures I presented. You actually confirmed them, because my figures were only about the metrics on the ease of doing business index. Of starting a business. I have the report in front of me. It says doing business 2020. So ease of doing business 2020. Maybe the website is wrong, but I have it in front of me. So this is an important figure, my friend. I was 5 or 6 years ago in the office of the Irish Taoiseach, Enda Kenny was in office back then. Back then Ireland was #1 in the world in this metric. He had this in a very big frame in his office, and he told us how proud he was about this achievement. I'm not saying our work is complete, and I'm not saying that I'm happy with the overall ranking on Greece being 79, but I'm saying that it's a step in the right direction. It's a big step. It's bigger than most people expected. So this is #1. On money laundering, I suspect you're referring to the Financial Times article on the 18 months requirement about people who have their, so what's the term now?
The assets.
Their assets being frozen.
Yes.
Okay, so that article partly was wrong. There was a debate about this in the Greek parliament just a few days ago. Former Prime Minister Tsipras brought up your point. Prime Minister Kyriakos Mitsotakis answered to this. There were several parts of this article that were false. We sent a letter to the Financial Times, requested to change or correct if they want to their article. I didn't follow up on this, but what this whole legislation was about, first of all, it was a change on the criminal code. Okay, there were certain aspects of the criminal code that created a very difficult environment for business in Greece. So if someone, for example, you come to Greece, you're an investor, and I sue you on a wrong basis, on a wrong legal basis, and the prosecutor decides that your assets need to be frozen on a wrong legal basis for 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years. This is a disincentive for you to come to Greece and invest your money. I'm not saying there's a perfect solution that works for everyone, and it's good to have a critique on every measure that this government passes as legislation, but we need to find a solution here to make Greece a pro-business environment. And this is a measure that aimed at this point. Now, if there are specific changes that we can do to make this better, let's hear it and let's make it happen. Okay. And on taxation, because you asked for it, actually corporate tax for 2019 from 28% went down to 24%. Next year will be 20%. So it's not just housing. On housing, we will have a 0% VAT policy for 3 years, so that, well, hopefully this can generate growth. I don't know if you want me to go into details on taxation,
so let's take some more questions. First of all, the gentleman here, please.
Hi, my name is Stratos Mavrogiannis. I'm a risk consulting associate at Moody's Analytics, working around risk areas for banks across Europe, Middle East, Greece, Africa, and the US. Thank you for all of your points. I think you touched in really important points: entrepreneurship, the nostalgia we feel for Greece, and the frameworks. And you answered some of the questions. My question is, you mentioned lower taxation, more jobs, more companies, and a legal system. But these feel like point-in-time measures. Today we will do them, and 6 months later, 1 year later, maybe 4 years later, another government will come and change them. This has been happening in Greece continuously. So investors lose trust to actually bring the business, because we are a cheap country to bring business. So the question is, how can you work together and establish a framework that is solid to keep this trust for more than 10 years?
Okay, thank you. Other questions, gentlemen in the centre?
Hello, everybody. First of all, I would like to thank Konstantinos, Agiliki, and Angela for the interesting speeches before. My name is Dimitris Zanidakis. I'm an MSc student in UCL, in European Politics, and I have a question for Konstantinos. We mentioned before the meritocracy, the lack of meritocracy. We mentioned the austerity, we mentioned the crisis. We didn't mention the general atmosphere of misery in Greece for many years. And I think that the party of Syriza for 5 years increased this phenomenon. I would like to ask Konstantinos, do you think that New Democracy, the government now, can change many things in practice? And if yes, how many years should New Democracy govern to change in reality many things in Greece? Thank you.
Okay, that's not a very specific question. Here, please.
Hello, my name is
Could you just wait for the microphone?
My name is Nicola Rini, I'm a social worker and sociologist. I would like to ask Mr. Kyrannakis, because he mentioned friendly environment and a friendly legal framework. So recently, we saw the Parliament rejecting an amendment to the Constitution that would protect the rights of LGBTQ people, which are not protected. There's no equality for them in Greece. That is also endorsed by the church, that still has power and influence, both in even legislations in the 21st century, for crying out loud, and public opinion. So there are many people who leave Greece exactly because the environment is not culturally friendly. So we have also had Mr. Voridis speaking in favor of police violence. So how does this exactly make a friendly environment? And how does endorsing these conservative Orthodox Christian values go hand in hand with a liberal economy, I just told?
Okay, good, thanks. If we could take the two people with their hands up. The first gentleman there, thanks.
Hello everyone, my name is Alexandros and I work in the tech sector in London. I have a question for Mr. Kyrannakis. I wonder whether another reason why people leave Greece is because we are producing people that we cannot absorb. I think at the moment...
Sorry, is because?
We are producing professionals that we cannot absorb.
Right.
So I think at the moment we have 7 medical schools in Greece. I think we have 3 or 4, we have 3 law schools and we wanted to open a 4th one. If all these people cannot be absorbed in Greece, even if we change everything else, these people will need to go somewhere else to find work. So do you think that's a challenge, and do we need to revise our university system?
Okay, person behind you.
Hi, I'm Dimitrios Stavropoulos. I'm a law graduate and I'm also a graduate of the European School as well. My question is directed to Kyrannakis, but it's open to anyone to answer really. There was some mention about changes in the legal framework and incentives to help entrepreneurs in Greece, but usually in the past, this focused more on traditional industries like real estate or tourism. I want to know specific examples of new incentives or new changes in the law that would improve conditions or offer new opportunities to enterprises that focus on fintech or legal tech, for example. Thank you.
Okay, let's take one more question here for Mai.
The answer will be long.
Hello, my name is Georgios Spiriadis. I'm working for tax department for HMRC. And I have questions because we raised a lot of stuff about taxation and changes and stuff like that. So at the moment, UK is leading a program for United Arab Emirates, how to get the taxation there, and it's very formal at the moment, so I'm dealing and part of that. Is Greece, take any chance to speak with other countries or take people from other taxation areas and bring them to Greece to show how it works here and it's not work there?
Okay, good. We are going to be short of time. We have 8 minutes, so we need precise answers. We know that you all have inspirational stories to tell us, but just precise answers, please. Perhaps if we could start in the same sequence, because a number of the questions were to Konstantinos. So let's give Konstantinos the last word. Angeliki, anything you want to pick up on?
Sure. First of all, regarding taxation, I don't know if, I think the change we need to see as an institution that supports new businesses is a horizontal change. We give microgrants, we provide microgrants of up to 10,000 per person per enterprise, and we know that 65 to 70% of that goes back to the state within the same year. So although we have come up with this very simple idea of helping people create jobs, a big portion of this donation goes back to the state. And this is not very conducive to a healthy entrepreneurial environment. So I think that changes must be horizontal changes for all sectors. And then regarding meritocracy, lack of meritocracy, this is something that is very high in all statistics. What do we need to do? How does one reverse such a situation? You need experienced people who are well fit for the job, for any job, who are invited to do what they're best at doing, and they're provided with some time, not ample time necessarily, but some time, a good salary and freedom in order to change things. Because selecting the right person for the job without providing time, freedom, and without letting them work in peace for a while is not going to bring results as expected. So I think that it's a systemic thing. So if we want to solve things, we have to think of a number of parameters, because bringing them back is one thing, but helping them thrive and give something back to the country is a completely different thing. So it's not only a matter of selection. We have a selection procedure. We have ASEP, for instance, and ASEP has worked. So there is a way for the country to support good choices, but this apparently is not enough. We need, again, a thriving environment.
Okay, Angela?
I touch some of the points about trust. In finance, we call that confidence, the confidence that you build. And this is not done through overnight. And any government, that being that one or any other, it needs time to build this trust, this confidence in the market. So yes, I think this will take time that will be my answer to you. And I hope that the foundations that this government and the energy that they are putting, hopefully that will bring some positivity that will last not only for today, but also for the future. So then there was another question about, we are creating, people are studying the same roles and we don't have the opportunity to absorb this talent. And this is true, and I think it's down to the families and the infrastructure that we've built as a country, everybody becoming doctors, lawyers. There are other opportunities that we can teach our kids, that it's not only to become a doctor or a lawyer, but you can also become an entrepreneur. So it starts from the foundations of school and the family to then be able to absorb other talents, not only the talents that have left and are highly educated. Yet certainly the infrastructure, in my view, needs to change, so there is less bureaucracy. So if I were to return to Greece, I would love to have less paperwork to fill in. So hopefully this will happen and my dream come true. So best practices, coming to your point, best practices, I think this is an excellent topic you touched. I think as we see the new government, hopefully they are going in different jurisdictions to learn from others, and hopefully taxation will be the key thing to incentivize investors and as well entrepreneurs to come back.
Constantino, several questions.
How much time do I have?
You have 3 minutes.
3 minutes, okay. All right, so number one, confidence by investors and the 10-year policy. I agree with you. There's a commitment for now by Kyriakos Mitsotakis on a 5-year policy. So this commitment was announced last year at the Thessaloniki fair, the annual fair. Because we're going to vote on lower taxation next year, the commitment is supposed to start after next year's for the next 5 years. So on your question about another government coming after Nea Demokratia, well, the answer is simple: don't vote for another government. This is the story all around the world. In the United States, which is oftentimes a point of reference, there was a Republican administration, there was a Democrat administration, and a very inspiring president, Obama, who brought a policy that was called Obamacare and completely changed the labor laws and the labor work situation. So, this is democracy. We're not China. This is the shortest answer that I could give. So misery in Greece. That's a long conversation. I don't think I can answer that in less than a minute. What I can say is that we need more people in politics and in media who are optimistic and ambitious. So if the public, the voters, people inside and outside the country listen to people, listen to politicians who say bad things about Greece, they will probably not come back. If they listen to politicians and leaders who say good things about Greece and good things that they want to do for Greece, then there's a higher possibility for young people to come back and feel more optimistic about the country. Now, on your question about the constitutional changes on LGBT rights, LGBT...
Human rights in general.
Sorry?
Human rights in general.
That was just an example, but it was...
Human rights are fully protected by the Greek constitution, and there are specific laws protecting also LGBT rights. Now, if we want the content of the existing laws about LGBT rights going also in the constitution, this is a different conversation. We can have it, but let's not pretend that an LGBT right is not protected if it's not in the constitution. There is legislation about this. It's in my opinion, strong. It can be stronger. This is debatable. But just by the fact that it was not voted in the constitution, it doesn't mean that it doesn't protect LGBT rights. On police violence, I want to ask you a question. If
no rhetorical things.
If you throw a Molotov bomb right outside the LSE, will the police project some violence or not?
We know that when we talk about police violence in Greece, we don't talk only about that.
I want Greek universities to look like the LSE. Clean, normal, modern, with no... I don't want the ASOE University being the headquarters for creating Molotov bombs. Okay, universities are not the place for that.
Okay.
So this is on your question.
If I could just add to this, then...
let me conclude.
No, if I could just add to the point. It's a discussion at the LSE. I took the point to be that some illiberal aspects in Greece were themselves an impediment to diasporic Greeks thinking of returning. That is, aspects in terms of liberal laws, but also perhaps specifically, you may wish to comment on some of the international news that came as a result of your comment about the refugee camp and your support for Greeks who would have souvlaki next to a Muslim refugee camp. So I took the comment to be one of a concern about illiberalism. How would you respond to that?
So now we have more time.
You have. I'm sure you've got a nice, crisp answer.
Fine with me. Okay, do you want me to answer your question first or the gentleman's? Your question first. Absolutely. First of all, it's the first time I hear there were international reactions about this controversy. Is that correct?
It got quite a lot of attention.
Okay, didn't know that. So what happened 2 weeks ago in the committee in Parliament that was discussing changes in the criminal code? This was the context of the discussion. There was an elected member of Parliament representing Syriza who actually suggested that, without giving a specific example of the event that took place last Sunday or 2 Sundays ago, that everyone who cooks souvlaki or drinks beer close by. Sorry?
Basically, he claimed it should be illegal for any Greek citizen, despite his constitutional rights, to go nearby a camp and perhaps cook or drink beer or eat souvlaki. And I think Mr. Kyrannakis is very
okay. That's very generous.
Okay, so that was his general suggestion for a change in the criminal code. The very fact that proves that this statement was hypocritical is that Syriza actually never came with a proposition for a specific change in the criminal code. It was just perhaps to make some advertisement for the event in Thessaloniki, in Diavata. So my reaction was explicitly about the discussion we had on the criminal code. I think, as a liberal person, that to forbid cooking or drinking or consuming anything based on a religion shouldn't be discussed. And everyone has a right in Greece and in Europe to consume whatever they want, whenever they want, wherever they want. This was my point. Now, some media, for their own reasons, and some politicians also for their own personal reasons, wanted to connect my general statement with some event I didn't know about in Diavata.
Okay.
So this is, in my view, very unfair. But from a liberal point of view, to argue that someone should limit themselves on what they're consuming or not based on a religion, I don't know, maybe my friend from the lab would agree.
It's fine. Let's move on to the next topic.
Okay. All right, our friend over there made a very good point. It is very true that professionals, legal counsels and doctors cannot be absorbed, at least not all of them, by the Greek labor market. And another example is that a large amount of companies actually want to hire right now computer scientists and developers and people who have the right skills, the right technological skills, and only 4% of the Greek public universities offer programs on computer science. So this doesn't match, it doesn't connect. So I fully agree with you on your point. And I think if you see, to our friend over there, what's your name? Yes, our friend Dimitris, who asked about fintech and legal tech. If you see the incentives that will be voted next week on companies that hire people with skills like the ones you described, you will be very happy. But our policy is horizontal. Okay, we want a low tax policy for everyone. If you're a company, if you're a person, you're a family, you have a house, low tax policy is good for everyone in our view. Okay, so there are ideas and there are programs like the one mentioned by the European Investment Bank and some other funds who are very active in Greece. The startup community is growing in Greece, but right now the most important thing is to invest on scale-ups. companies like Workable and companies like Blue Ground that are thriving in the United States. Companies with an amazing amount of Greek talent that outside the country can do amazing things. These need to be the success stories and the role models for the change we need to see in Greece in the upcoming years. Thank you.
Okay, we are out of time. Of course, we've covered quite a number of topics, and I'm very grateful for our speakers setting the big picture, but also responding to many of your questions. It suggests to me that this is a topic that we should return to in the future. So can you please thank our three speakers very much indeed.